chaos. The town's on fire. People are dying in the streets. Hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. I am really excited and really nervous for today's video. We are talking about all of the ships, all different kinds of ships from the Vampire Diaries today. We are only looking at the Vampire Diaries, okay? So this is not like the full TVD universe. This is just the Vampire Diaries show. If this is the first video you're seeing of me, I have a whole series recapping the Vampire Diaries episode by episode, full plot breakdowns. There will be a playlist, you can find it, it's a lot of fun. In between doing that and jumping into my recaps of the originals, I'm doing a couple little fun, silly videos just to keep the Vampire Diaries train rolling because we had a lot to discuss, okay? And we talked about a lot in the plot breakdowns, but this, we're really getting into it now. We're getting into some specifics. Let me just preface by saying that obviously these are just my opinions, okay? You're not gonna agree with me, all right? I'm gonna tell you that right now. You're not always gonna agree with me. That's okay. That being said though, there are so many ships. My script before me right now is 25 pages long. And I gave up and didn't even write notes. I'm just like, I'm gonna wing it when I get to certain people, okay? I know I forgot couples. I know I did. Just remind me down below. We'll talk about it. I'm sorry, it wasn't on purpose. I've gone through so many different lists. I've gone back through my notes and I know I still forgot people. The only people that I intentionally didn't really care about talking about are most of the parent relationships, just because we're not here to talk about that, okay? That's not why you clicked on this video. You don't care about Tyler's parents, all right? Neither do I. I'm just gonna say it real quick, okay? I don't ever want to make somebody feel bad for liking what they like, but me personally, I do not ship any of the family relationships or the family dynamic relationships. Rick and Elena aren't technically related. That's a father figure. I do not ship it. I won't even be touching on those as romantic ships because in my head they're not. So let's just get into it, shall we? Relationship gossip session, here we go. Okay, we're gonna start with the best sibling dynamics in the show, and I'm gonna begin with Klaus and Elijah, and also Klaus and Rebecca, and sort of Cole. We're just gonna talk about the Michelsons real quick. I know things are gonna get more intense when we go over into the originals, okay? Because obviously that's their spinoff, so we're gonna talk about them even more. And I'm personally so excited to just be completely destroyed by what happens specifically to the boys over there. I'm really interested to see how the dynamics evolve over on their show, because the biggest issues I have with Klaus in general on TVD come from the way he treats his family. So such a big part of Klaus and how we're supposed to view him as a character and his guiding thing about him is that he's looking for a family and he wants to be loved. And he wants to be connected to people in a way that he never has felt like he's been before. And then we find out the backstory of specifically Elijah and Rebecca, who found out that he was a hybrid, found out that they didn't share both parents, so they're only half siblings, found out that he's got an uncontrollable werewolf side that might make him kill people. And they were all just that's okay. First and foremost, you're our brother. We love you forever. We'll stand with you. We're never gonna leave you behind. You're the one we pick. And that still wasn't enough for him. And so I guess he needed 100% complete and total submission, which is funny because he is not the oldest brother. But I think that that's what he wanted from them, is just 100%, you can never do anything I don't want you to do. So Rebecca picking Stefan and wanting to fall in love with him, or Elijah picking Catherine and wanting to fall in love with her, also Tatya, that whole mess there. He just ends up devolving into this like, I'm just gonna make my own family and I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna control them and they're gonna be my little hybrid puppets. And it's just annoying. It is just annoying. And I'm excited to see what it feels like watching them just be a family over in the originals, and like how my feelings of them are gonna change, because there are moments where like it's so good. The sibling dynamics are so good in TVD and I'm obsessed. And then there's moments where I'm like, Klaus, if you don't, like, he's so mean to Rebecca sometimes. And it does, for the most part, it comes across as like, he's older than her. Of course he's gonna be annoying. Like, she's the annoying little sister. And it makes sense. And then there's moments where I'm like, you're just a jerk. Like, you're just not nice. And somebody needs to put a dagger in your chest. And with Elijah, I always find it really interesting that like 9 times out of 10, he like bows to Klaus and lets Klaus kind of do whatever he wants, even though Elijah is the older brother. So there's moments where he can be really menacing and scary and give off that like, I'm stronger than you and I will take you down. Like, I'm thinking specifically of when Damon undaggers him and he like attacks Klaus, like he surprise attacks him in the house, and they have that moment where Klaus like pins him up on the coffin and he's like, go ahead and do it, you'll have Cole to deal with. Like, oh, delicious. I love those moments. I feel like in the similar way of Klaus wanting a family desperately, Elijah has a lot of like wants around the Michelsons in general. So he just is like out here trying to keep them together. And if like making Klaus happy and comfortable is the way to do that, like he's willing to do it. He's willing to kind of go against his morals if it means maybe Klaus will be happy and then they can be together. But then Klaus is just so demented 90% of the time that it's like, stop making excuses for your brother. Like, something's wrong with, he needs to go in a cage. Okay, he needs medication of some kind. It's not working. Love and kindness is not working on him. Oh my God, do you remember that moment where Elijah is like begging for Klaus to let Catherine go because he wants to be with Catherine, and he's like, do this for me because you're my only living brother and you want me to have a chance at love. Like, let me experience this finally, please. And Klaus is like, since I'm your only living brother, I'm gonna make your life a living hell. And Elijah just goes, it's such a hollow little life you lead, Niklaus. I can't with him. Special little note on Cole, the scene in the bar where Caroline comes in and they're like out drinking. Love that. Love the dynamics of Cole being like the messy younger sibling. Incredible. Also, when Cole dies and he gets like barbecued in the Gilbert kitchen, and Klaus, there's like a scene where it's like Cole dying on the ground and then he's screaming bloody murder, and then it just cuts to Klaus standing in the open Gilbert front door, and he like has a whole meltdown because he just watched his youngest brother die. Well, the other one died like in his arms because he got mauled by wolves, but you know, it was sad. It was sad. And he cries when Cole dies. And so there's like, it's so complicated. I love mess, all right? And I especially love family mess. So they're always gonna have like a special place in my heart. Can't wait to see what happens to these guys later on. Then we have Jeremy and Elena. I always feel like I wanted slightly more from them where he's concerned, okay? Like, Elena is always giving us like 10 out of 10. My brother means everything to me. I love and adore him. Even when he's an idiot, I'm gonna do everything I can to take care of him. And Jeremy's just sort of like, yeah, my sister's cool. Yeah, I like my sister. She's like kind of annoying sometimes, which he's the little brother. Even more so, he's the troubled little brother. So like, I get it. But it's just kind of, it's not enough for me. He doesn't do enough. But then we have that moment where like they find out that they're actually cousins and not actual siblings. And so Jeremy has this moment of being like, you're my sister. Nobody's gonna change that. I love you. Shut up. And it's like, that's sweet. Like, that's nice that they feel that way about each other. But it's just still, they don't cry much together. Like, it's just, I don't know. I think it might just be the Jeremy actor. I'm learning that out loud as we talk through this together. I think it might just be the Jeremy actor making this a problem for me. His death arc, though, haunts me to this day, all right? That is such a good episode where he's like dead in the house and the vampires can smell him. And they're like tiptoeing around how to tell Elena, and then she burns the house down because she's so filled with grief that she has to turn off her emotions. Come on, that's good. So I love Vicky and Matt's relationship, okay? They're so messy, and then together they have so much love for each other. Like, I think this is what I'm saying about, like, there's not enough from Jeremy in the Jeremy and Elena moments, okay? Vicky gives me what I need, okay? So she is a mess, just like Jeremy, but she freaking loves Matt, and she would do anything for him. And, like, they have such an interesting dynamic of, like, when she's a ghost and she's haunting him and all that's happening, and she's still kind of evil a little bit, but, like, she's trying to, like, trick him and all those things, and she's getting away with it because he loves her too much. And then finally he has to be like, no, I have to let you go, you have to leave, you can't come back, you're dead, you are dead. It's very sad. The ending where, like, we bring Pete into things and we get that scene in the bell tower, that's emotional. That's closure for the Donovans that I didn't think they were gonna get. Luke and Liv, my babies, they mean so much to me. Luke and his whole, like, coven before family, we have a job to do and we're gonna do it. And then, like, the immediate breakdown into, like, I don't want to kill Liv. I don't think I can do it. I love her too much. She means too much to me. She's my best friend. Please don't make me do it, Dad. Also, the flip side of that, of Liv coming to the realization that he is the stronger witch and therefore he will win the merge, like, weeks before she actually voices that thought to Luke, because he's been sort of in denial about it, and he's like, we're just gonna do the merge and somebody's gonna win, but I don't know who it is. And the whole time Liv has been like, no, you're absolutely gonna kill me. 100%, you're better at this than I am. Are you blind? And even in those moments, she doesn't, like, try to guilt him about that. She's just like, no, like, you are better, you will win. The trust me moment before he runs off to merge with Kai, oh my God. The fact that they don't get a proper goodbye. Are you serious? And the way she reacts when we find out he's gone and she just, like, throws herself into Tyler's arms, like, I simply can't with that. And then moving forward into, like, post-merge Kai, when he tries to kill her for funsies and Luke doesn't let him do it. Come on. The dynamics in the scenes where they're around family members, whether it's like Kai and Joe or Joshua, like, I just love the way that they're always protective of each other. There's just, like, something there that's, like, innate between the two of them, where it's like, y'all would not handle merging. Like, you genuinely could not do this to each other. And it's so clear. They're just sibling core in the best of ways. Look at this. Look at this behind the scenes image. I think about this all the time. And now we're gonna talk about the oldest twins, the ones that break my heart in every possible way. I just love the fact that even in the pre-merge scenes where they're together, there is, like, undeniable banter between them. Like, they can't help it. There's just, like, an easy communication that they have that cannot be, like, hidden or, like, gotten rid of. So she'll be like, I'm so scared of him, he's so scary, and then, like, make a joke. Or he'll make a joke and she won't get mad. Like, they just can't help themselves. The similarities in their personalities haunt me, and we should all be thankful that he didn't merge with her, okay? Because as somebody who loves and adores him, I can tell you right now that, like, him merging with Joe and winning and having her personality put into him, that would have created the person that Luke is so afraid is gonna be made, okay? You know how Luke is like, once he's all powerful, he's gonna be crazy, he's gonna be killing everybody, he's gonna be using his powers for evil. That would have happened had he merged with Joe, 100%. Those two are Tauruses, so we would have ended up with a Kai that is twice as stubborn, twice as selfish, and twice as dangerously intelligent. He already has a weird knowledge of anatomy, all right? Joe's a doctor. We're gonna put the actual med school studies into the head of the man that knew where to put the knife so as to only hurt the spleen. We don't need to do that. That would have been bad, okay? I've said it before and I'll say it again. The scene at the wedding where he looks around the room and goes over to Joe, of all places in the room, okay, to do the final, like, I'm taking out the coven moment. He goes over to Joe. He puts his back to her and they die back to back on the floor of the freaking wedding venue. And we get this gorgeous aerial shot of the two of them laying there dead. That's my favorite shot in the whole show. That's my favorite shot in the whole show. Top of the sibling hierarchy. Seems like a very obvious thing that I'm about to say to you. Damon and Stefan. This is the actual love story of this show. Just go ahead and take Elena out. We don't need her. This show is about these brothers in every possible way. I have a lot of feelings about the end of the show and like Stefan being the one to die and sacrificing himself for Damon. I'm glad that they give us kind of the like epilogue scenes where we do know that they're reunited and they find peace together, because otherwise that would just like infuriate me, because it does kind of, that Caroline is like left alive as a vampire and we know that she lives for a very long time and Stefan's just gone right after they get married. Like it's just sad. It just feels kind of needlessly sad. Why didn't we just like push Catherine into the hellfire? What about that? What if we just yeeted her in with like a Sparta kick? I feel like we could have done that instead. I've talked about this before a couple times. I have a lot of complicated feelings on Stefan Salvatore, and specifically like the way we're led to feel about him, and then when we find things out from the flashbacks and you're like, hold, he's the one that made Damon turn, and it gets all complicated, and they're both not great, okay? They're both problematic. That's the point. There's not a single person in this show, I don't think, that makes it out without killing somebody or doing some unspeakable horror, okay? Everybody does something bad. But where the brothers are concerned, they have this constant need to like one-up each other and be like, I'm better than you, or I'm the bad, terrible, awful brother. And like, that's the whole thing that their relationship boils down to, is like, who's the good one? Who's the bad one? What is it that Sybil says? Are you the victim? Does she say the victim or the villain? I can't remember. Something like that. And Stefan says he's both, and he's correct. They're both. That's the whole thing. But it takes so freaking long to get there, okay? And we could have been there before the end of the show. I feel that way about a lot of the relationships where it's like, this is a relationship drama show. That's why we're watching, okay? So they make things happen just because they're like, and also these guys broke up again, and also the brothers hate each other again. And it does get old. But like, that's why we're here. That's why we're still talking about it all these years later. I just wish we had more of them being happy together. And I will always feel that way, because I'm a person who like happily, I would watch whole seasons of just like domestic bliss between the characters that I really like, okay? So Stefan and Damon having these moments throughout the whole show where it's like, wow, they're such good brothers. They love each other so much. I love seeing them like laugh and have fun. They're just few and far between, and we never really get like an extended stretch of time where they're just both happy. And I feel like we could have done that. Like we could have had that. So yeah, I mean, obviously they're my favorite of the siblings. How could they not be? They are the show. They are what the show is built on. Moving out of like true siblings, let's get into my favorite bestie ships. Let's get our boy Matt out of the way. Okay, let's talk about him and Elena, because they are such cute friends, especially in the early seasons, like when he's working through still kind of being in love with her, but ultimately like just wanting her to be happy and trying to like take care of her and be there for her. I just love those vibes for the two of them, because they clearly have so much love and respect for each other, and it translates into some really beautiful moments. I'm thinking about when Caroline and him are technically together, but he hugs Elena in the hallway instead, and he was like waiting to see her. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like there's just something there, and you can't take it away. Even when they start falling in love with other people, they're always gonna like have some tiebacks to each other. Similarly, Bonnie and Matt, I think, have a really nice dynamic. It never really feels flirty. Like everybody has tension with everybody in this show because everybody's attractive, okay? That just happens. So there's like moments where like that's going on with Bonnie and Matt, but for the most part, they're just friends. And they have this like wonderful ability to like listen to each other. So Matt's one of the only people that like trusts Bonnie's intuition wholeheartedly. And he'll be like, if you say that this person's evil, this person must be evil. Okay, I believe you. You don't have to explain it to me any more than that. I'm with you. Would you like me to help kill them? Because I'm happy to do that for you, Bon Bon. I'm always going to respect somebody that respects Bonnie, so I have to give them love. We also do learn at the very end that there was like a relationship between two of their ancestors back in the day, and so that sort of explains it, where it's like, oh, like you guys are drawn to each other because like your families have always been drawn to each other, and how cute. Like that is cute. Ooh, let's talk about my favorite bromance. Stefan and Klaus. Everything about them is perfect to me, all right? And I know some of it's really bad. Some of it's real bad. They bring out the worst in each other almost from the jump. Like the second they're together, it's like, uh-oh, danger, danger, sirens, red flags, but like in a fun way. In a fun way. You can't deny it. It's so fun. And I do think that because their relationship is so like led by extremes, they do have the ability to like bring out the best in each other and want the best for each other and like kind of encourage each other to be their true selves, which is such a big reason why I struggle with liking Stefan, okay? So when Klaus is next to him and he's like, be your true self, tell me who you really are. I know you and I love you. Just be that person. Yes, he's talking about Ripper Stefan. Not a great guy, but like that is kind of who Stefan really is. Like that part of Stefan's personality is just as much a part of him as the like sweet, kind, loving Stefan, okay? The problem that I have with him is that he puts Ripper Stefan away and says, Ripper Stefan is evil. Ripper Stefan brings nothing to my life. You can't do that with half your personality. You can't just put it in a box and pretend it doesn't exist, okay? You gotta find a balance between the two of them. And I feel like Klaus and Damon are the two people that can kind of like help Stefan with that. My husband just came home and he brought me a little treat. So if my mouth turns red, it's this. This is what happened. But yeah, ultimately, there's not a scene between Stefan and Klaus that I don't love. Like everything about their dynamic is just so good. I also really love the friendship that Stefan has with Elena. Okay, it's not that I don't like them as a couple. I prefer them as friends because I'm a Damon girly. So I do agree with him on the whole, like, you want a love that consumes you. Stefan just doesn't do that for her. He is like somebody who's supposed to be in her life and he makes sense as like a partner. Stefan does a really good job of like, for the most part, listening to Elena and like respecting her boundaries in a way that characters like Damon simply do not do. And they kind of want us to think that that's because like, oh, Damon loves her more. And so Damon just is willing to do whatever it takes for her in a way that Stefan is not. I don't love that. I don't love it. Like, you should just listen to your partner. You can tell them you disagree with them, but you should listen and you should respect what they want at the end of the day. But I do at the end of the day just prefer Platonic Stelena. Oh man, up there with my bromances to end all bromances, Damon and Enzo. Oh my god. They do it for me. They do it for me consistently. I love the two of them together on screen. Every time they're together, I'm like, yes, snaps all around, whether they're breaking my heart, making me laugh, annoying me to no end in season 7. I just love the dynamic they have with each other. I think it's funny that Enzo tries to like insert himself into the Salvatore brother situation and then also tries to sleep with their mom. So it's like, do you want to be their dad or do you want to be their brother? I don't think you know. I think you need to get that figured out before we move forward. The whole arc where we find out that they've been like tortured together with Augustine, so good. So good. That moment where Enzo like stands up to Stefan and he's like, you've forgotten about Damon, and if that's how you're gonna live, then I'm gonna take up his cause and I'm gonna make the rest of your life an eternity of misery. Like, that's good. Also, I think it's really funny that Stefan and Damon obviously both fall for Elena and Catherine, and then his other brother, Enzo, they both fall for Bonnie. That's funny. That's comedy right there. We're gonna go to like my sleeper agent bestie ship. It's complicated. Damon and Caroline. I know. I know. The beginning seasons, okay? Season 1 specifically, when he is compelling her and they're in a relationship, there's so much SA in this show. Like a shocking amount. And we just sort of gloss over it and they want us to forget and move on. And Caroline does just that. And by the end of the show, they have this incredible, like loving, really mutual respect friendship born out of the fact that they both love Stefan. So they're like the two most important people in Stefan's life, and then they mourn him together and have like this amazing friendship. But yeah, no, the way it started, trash. Terrible. But like, y'all remember all the things he said about her at Liz's funeral? That was season 6, okay? It took a while to get there, but we got there in the end. All right, now this one, similar to how I wish that Stefan and Elena had just stayed friends. I don't think they should have gotten married. I'm sorry, I know. It's not that I don't like them as a couple, it's that it feels really forced. It feels like they didn't want to keep Valerie, who was a great option, and so instead they like had him get back together with Caroline, and then they had to end the show with like happiness, so of course they got married. It just doesn't feel like it made sense to me, okay? I like the idea of them. So maybe it just has to do with the way that it like goes down and how it's a little wishy-washy and we don't get to really see them be happy because all of their happiness is like cut short in the way that most of the couples in this show deal with. But I don't know. I love, cause the concept of like him initially being like, it's never gonna happen between me and you. We're never gonna be together. Get over it. And I love that. I love that he tells her up front, because so many people string her along. So he tells her up front, we're never gonna like each other, no. And then they grow a friendship, and it's a real genuine, sweet friendship. Love it, okay? 10 out of 10. She obviously still has feelings for him. And then we have that scene where she tells him, you know, one day you're gonna fall in love and it's gonna happen, you're not gonna expect it, you're just gonna realize, oops, I fell in love, I've moved on, I'm not in love with Elena anymore. And then later on at the wedding, he says like, that was you. Like, how crazy is it that that was you? So in like conceptually, that sounds great. That sounds like friends to lovers realness, okay? I should love that. But there's just so many pitfalls along the way that it starts to just feel like, oh my God, maybe they shouldn't be together. Maybe they don't make sense. Maybe we should just let them give up. So much of this comes down to writing, right? Like if you just presented me with the beginning stages of their relationship, I love it. I love all of it. Then we have end of season 6 through 7 and 8, and what happened there? Going back to Damon, we got to talk about him and Liz. I know, they're so good. They're so good together as friends. Her like kind of immediately letting him in and being like, Damon Salvatore is one of my besties. He makes me so comfortable and I've never doubted him in my life. To then being like, you're a vampire? What do you mean? I have to kill you? To then back to Damon Salvatore is my friend and I trust him. I'm like, girl, me too. Me too. I can't even be mad at you. Given what he does to Caroline in season 1, I almost wish they didn't have the flashbacks of him and Liz talking about baby Caroline, because that element of the relationship for all three of them is like, ew, that's, I don't like it. But again, there's so much that happens that you sort of just have to like take it and leave it. You have to be like, oh, that was season 1. We don't need to talk about season 1. Now we're talking about season 6 when he gives the eulogy and says goodbye to her and flirts with her when she's got her little pajamas on and he's like, you look kind of hot. That whole thing in the bed, and she's like, Damon, please leave me alone. And like, he knows that something's wrong with her. He like senses it and rushes her to the hospital. Like it's so good. I love Stefan and Lexi so much. They have like strictly a platonic vibe to me though. I can see why people would ship them romantically because they do have like the friends to lovers general baseline, but I just think if that was gonna happen, we would have seen it in the show. Like it would have unfolded. I'm gonna put a little special thing in here for the throuple dynamics of Caroline, Bonnie, and Elena. I don't think we can break them down and talk about them in groups of 2, but for the most part, no matter what, even when they're broken up in sets of 2, they're talking about the one that's missing, okay? So they go together as a set. This is triplets right here. Early season dynamics, no one likes Caroline. Everybody's picking on Caroline. Caroline's a bitch. And then it evolves into like, we love Caroline. We love that she's a bitch. I'll never be able to handle the breakdown of Elena and Bonnie when they go through that phase of like not being friends, and that leads like Bonnie and Caroline to getting closer, and it just becomes this complicated tangled web of girl friendships and everybody's sad and upset. That's a whole thing. That's a whole can of worms. But oh man. Similar to the throuple dynamics, I love the gaggle dynamics of the main Mystic Falls gang. Okay, we're talking the Founders Squad. So Elena, Bonnie, Caroline, Tyler, and Matt. Love to see it. Love everything about it. Childhood friends into complicated relationship drama. It will always do it for me. Found family is my favorite trope. Now the top of my bestie friendship list. There is no competition here as far as I'm concerned. Damon and Rick. We don't even need to get into it, I don't think, okay? They are everything to me. Rick has that nice little voiceover where he says like, I showed up to Mystic Falls planning to kill Damon for what he did to my wife. And then I started to love him and we became best friends. It's so funny, but it's so true. And that's exactly what happens. The drinking buddy element of it all, the way that they're like the oldest and they're like taking care of the kids together. That gets a little weird because they are both gonna date the children that they previously said they wanted to babysit. You know, at least they're in it together. While I understand it on some level, I've never really felt like Rick, you know, saying, screw you, Damon, you can't be in my life anymore. I'm not your friend. Like, you've been gone and I don't want anything to do with you. After the Red Wedding and after Europe and all of that, when like he's settled with Caroline and Damon shows up and like tries to re-enter their life. I don't, like I sort of get it because they want us to think that Rick has like entered Papa Bear mode and so like his children are everything to him and therefore any threat to the family dynamics like must be squashed. But like Damon has always been a threat. Damon has always been a threat and Rick has always overlooked it. You remember when Damon like worked with Kai and was absolutely gonna let Kai merge with Joe just to like be selfish? Remember that? Remember when that happened and that was why Joe and Kai ended up in the park where Luke interrupted them and Luke jumped into the merge, and then Damon shows up and all he can say to Joe is like, oh good, you're alive. That's gonna keep Rick from being mad at me. You shouldn't have done it, dumbass. But he can't help himself. He can't help himself. He's so inconsistent when it comes to friendships. And that is part of Damon's character that like, it makes me so annoyed that they never let him settle into something that we can root for completely, because he's always gonna screw it up in the word, like right at the last second. We'll be like, yes, Damon, you've been doing good for 5 episodes. This is incredible. Major screw up that has a huge ripple effect for seasons to come. He cannot help himself. But Rick is always there for the most part, right at his side, and I love them. They're ride or die. The scene where Rick says, I miss you too, buddy, in the graveyard. No, you can't, It's just too good. Anytime Damon is living and Rick is a ghost and they have moments together, I simply can't be trusted with how I'm gonna react in those situations because I am gonna cry. I'm gonna ugly cry every time. We're gonna briefly touch on a few groups of people who I just simply wish liked each other more. Like, it was there, the friendship vibes were there, the potential for friendship was there. It didn't happen. Why? Tyler and Jeremy. This is early seasons, okay, because it kind of tapers off and becomes like this weird Dumb and Dumber situation where like Tyler, Matt, and Jeremy are like a group of 3 and they're kind of a vibe. But in the beginning, we have all this setup where like Tyler and Jeremy are fighting over Vicky and they don't like each other and they fight a lot. But it's like they could have been friends. Like they absolutely could have been better friends than Tyler and Matt, because Tyler and Jeremy understand each other. They have similar interests, they have similar vibes, similar trauma. Like there's just a lot going on. Y'all remember that scene where Jeremy finds out that Tyler's dad's abusive and he's like, oh my God, that's what's wrong with you. And Tyler's like, no, what are you talking about? Absolutely not. And Jeremy's like, no, that's what it is. And then he tries to build something with him and Tyler just shuts him down because he can't do it. It was there though. The potential was there. Similarly, Damon and Klaus. Like I know that the point is that Stefan and Klaus get along more, okay? But Damon and Klaus could have truly been something together. That scene where all four of them, Elijah, Klaus, Damon, and Stefan, have dinner together, and it's like that weird dinner party moment where it's just the four of them, and it's one of the only times they're like alone together in a scene. The dynamics were dynamicking, okay? That could have been so fun to have more of the brothers interacting with each other. And like, yeah, probably they would have just burned down Mystic Falls together. But would it have been enjoyable to watch? Probably. Tom and Elena. I said what I said. They don't even meet, but Tom is Elena's doppelganger, right? Like Stefan and Catherine, they're connected. So Stefan and Elena are not the fated pair, okay? Catherine and Stefan are the fated pair. Tom is Elena's doppelganger, and they don't even get to meet. But there's a lot of people that are like, how cute would it have been if like she ended up doing residency at the hospital where like he works at? Wouldn't that have been so cute? That's probably how they would have met. You're right. You're right, and you should say it louder for the people in the back. That is probably how they would have met. They probably would have both been doctors. It would have been so cute. So stinking cute. Damon and Sage. Don't lie to yourselves. There was some good stuff going on here. I think together as a real couple, they would have been show-endingly evil. Like, it would not have been good for anybody, but I probably would have enjoyed it on some level. It would have been fun to watch. I have mixed feelings about this next one. A lot of people either put them together romantically and are like 10 out of 10. I've never seen something I like more. And then some people are like, murder besties, like, that would have been so good. I fall somewhere in the middle where I'm like, I can see it going one of two ways, okay? Either they're gonna love each other and they're gonna vibe so well and it's gonna work, or they're gonna destroy each other on sight. They're gonna make eye contact as they walk into the room and they're gonna both go, you're my next target. I'm talking about Kai and Cole. Like, do you see what I mean? It's either gonna work because Kai is the oldest sibling and Cole is the youngest sibling. So that could work where like if Cole can relax and let Kai be in charge, that'll work. Something good will happen. It won't be good for us, but it'll be good for them. They will have a good time. On the flip side though, if they can't find that common ground, they're killing each other. They're killing each other on sight multiple times. Like, it's not gonna end well for either party. Chaos. The town's on fire. People are dying in the streets. But it could have been fun. It could have been so fun. These guys just don't matter. What was the point? Why did it happen? Waste of time. Rick and Meredith. What did we get out of that, okay? It was just boring. Like, they're fine. They're sweet. It's okay. And then she just moves to Alaska and we never hear from her again. Elena and Liam. You're telling me that you had a whole cast of people to put her with after separating her from Damon, and you went with Liam? I don't know how we recover from that. Oh man, this one came up a lot. I was surprised by how much this one came up in my searching of things. People ship Kai and Elena together. I didn't see that one coming. I was not prepared. I was like, really? That, based off of the high school torture scenes? Are we sure? Because for me, it's a no. It's a hard no. It's an absolutely not. Okay, now we're getting into the ships where I'm like, just never talk to each other again. Ever again. Julian and Lily. That was abuse. That was straight abuse. It was disgusting. It was toxic. I hated everything about it. Hated everything about it. I hate that man. She deserved more. Not a lot more, but more. Vicky and Jeremy. Bad. Like, they just weren't good for each other. And I wonder if pre the show starting, they were. Because we don't actually see like the beginning of their relationship. We come into the show with them having already like been together, I think over the summer. And so there's a dynamic between them where Jeremy's like, but I really like you and I care about you. And Vicky's like, no, I'm just like your friend's sister. And like, you just think I'm hot because I'm like the town bad girl. Like, that's all this is. But it's not. Like, Jeremy does genuinely like her. And then Jeremy gets sicker and Vicky kind of enjoys Jeremy getting sicker. And then when Jeremy wants to get better, Vicky's like, no, we're trash people. We do trash things. So there's just no real like good ending for the two of them. And then she comes back as a ghost and haunts him. And I'm like, girl, you're barking up the wrong tree. Go bother your brother. And she does. Yeah, Tyler and Klaus, I hate basically every time they're on screen together. I hate it. I hate their relationship really boils down to like fighting over Caroline and kind of treating Caroline like a prize. Not so much on Tyler's end. Okay, this is definitely like Klaus does this, where he's like, Caroline is the girl I want and you like her and she likes you and therefore I will ruin your life. And it's petty and it's kind of annoying and it just leads to a lot of mess in the storylines. Ooh, Bonnie and Klaus, okay? I am the first one to say that Bonnie deserved to end up with a villain. I'll say it. I'll say it again for the people in the back. That's what I wanted for her. I think more than anybody, she has the personality ready to match that, okay? But Klaus, it's too antagonistic. There's not enough flirting for me to be like, oh, I see it. And I could be wrong. Y'all can remind me if there's like things that I'm really forgetting. But when I think about the two of them, the first thing I think about is the arc where he like grabs her and like makes her help with the spell for the siblings. And he's like got Cole threatening Jeremy off in Denver. I think that's where he's at. So she's just terrified. Like that whole stretch of scenes, she's deeply horrified by Klaus and she never relaxes in his presence, even though at that moment she's like deeply powerful witch Bonnie, growing in her magic and everything. She never feels comfortable when he's in a room with her, that I can remember. And I don't ever remember him softening with her the way he is with Caroline. So, because that's the thing with the villains is like, as long as they're going to be kind to the people they're flirting with, I'll take it. I'll be like, I can see it. I can jump. I can get on that. But I can't do it with Bonnie and Klaus. I can do it with basically anyone else in Bonnie, but I can't do it with Klaus. Man, Catherine and Elijah. My poor boy. You leave him alone. You let him go. You go somewhere else. You bother another poor man. Okay, you leave my baby alone. She's just using him. And I think probably on some level she does care about him. She definitely wants us to believe that. She goes on and on about how like Elijah's different, Elijah's special. And like he is. So part of me believes her. But end of the day, all she cares about is Stefan. So it's like, stop messing with these poor, pathetic, brown-haired men when you just want the Salvatore boy. And Elijah loves her because once upon a time he was with Tatya, which is like the first doppelganger that he fell in love with. And so that's also why he has like weird tension with Elena. Like it's all connected back to Tatya. And so I'm like, baby, just move on. Okay, Catherine is not her. Let it go. Okay. This one's just laughable to me. Like truly so funny. And it's people's favorite. Like people really love this ship. And I'm just like, ooh, no. Catherine and Kai. Like this is what I think happened, right? So she saw him in hell and she was like, ooh, okay, he's kind of cute. And then he opened his mouth, right? Like, I'm saying this as somebody who loves him, okay? If you haven't seen my character ranking video, go check that out. I think it's because I love him as much as I do that I can tell you honestly that there is not a world where Catherine Pierce looks at him twice. This man eats Cheetos in bed, and then he wipes his grubby little fingers all over the freaking comforter. I'm not saying that he wasn't crawling on his hands and knees for a chance with her. I'm just telling you it's not gonna happen. Damon and Sybil. It's bad because it's not real. Like, she's a literal siren and she's messing with his memories and like inserting herself into the Elena timeline. So like that is screwed up. But then also he's like regressed into this like awful early season Damon all over again. All over again. We're back where we started with him. And Sybil is like, I love it. Do more of that. You're perfect the way you are. And now typically I feel that way. Typically I'm like, let the villains be villains. Okay, but Damon, we went through so much with him, okay, and we were finally getting to a good place. And then we just took it all away. We just took it all away, and Miss Sybil is having the time of her life, letting him be evil and demented. And while I love that for her, I hate it for us. And therefore, I do not like this. Matt and Nadia, this is yet another one where like so much of the relationship is just a lie. It's not real. It's just her pretending. I think on some level, she did care about him. That's such a trope here where it's like, I lied to you, but also I kind of like you a little bit. It gets old, but it's there with these guys as well because he's Matt Donovan. Everybody loves a wet puppy, okay? And you can't escape it with him. It's the freaking Matt Donovan curse. But they just like don't have a lot in common. I think this whole relationship boils down to physical attraction and there's just nothing there. Similarly, Caroline and Matt. It's weird because when they first get together, he says things like, I never thought I'd like you. Like, I thought you were annoying and the worst. And he's falling in love with this like idea of her that ends up still not being complete. So then we have her with Tyler and it's like Tyler can see her in a way that Matt can't. There was a lot of potential here, like the early seasons. Y'all remember when they just like cuddle up in bed together and they have that cute like sleepover moment where she like comes into the room with like all the snacks in her hands, like there's like a chip bag in her mouth. It's cute in the beginning, okay? It could have been something. It went downhill so quick, and it went downhill into a place where I'm like, damn, should y'all even be friends? Like, I don't think you should, because late seasons, them, it's not it for me. God, freaking Haley and Tyler. They make me so angry. Like, I know that they aren't even like a true couple, but oh my God, the nonsense of that whole part of the arc, it infuriates me in a way that like I can't even put it into words. But so much of my hatred for Haley comes from what she does to Caroline and Tyler. And this thing, her whole arc in TVD just makes me want to claw out her eyes. And I'm praying to God that it changes when we get over to the originals because I'm going to be fighting for my life otherwise. Damon and Catherine. I hate it. Get it off my screen. Every time they're together, I'm like, you unhand that boy. You let him go. She's so hateful for doing this to him because we learned so quickly that the whole time Catherine loved Stefan, okay? She did not love Damon. It was never about anything other than like attraction, and she liked the fact that he was in love with her. He was such a sweet boy. And the fact that he happily would have just like not been with her and like married a Fell or a Forbes or somebody else, had a couple kids and died a human if it weren't for Catherine freaking Pierce is just like, oh, it's so infuriating. I wish I could go back in time and record my reaction to finding out that she was never in that damn tomb. Because that really sealed it for me. I was like, I will never forgive her for this. Now we're getting to the ships that are romantic in nature, but they just leave me feeling deeply sad for one reason or another. Damon and Andy. I know I bring her up a lot. I talk about this lady a lot for a character that is, in the grand scheme of things, very minor. And yes, before you say it, like, he is compelling her. It is still SA. It's complicated, weird Vampire Diaries essay, but like it is still, you're right, that's still what it is. If you can squint at that and kind of move on. I do think he cared about her a lot. I think her death affects him. I don't know, she has aspects to her that kind of are like spicy like Catherine, but then sweet like Elena, and kind of like fun and flirty like Rose. So she makes sense for him as a partner. but it is just like a very short-lived thing. I don't know, it just makes me kind of sad because there is definitely something there, and it is fun to watch. Like, they have a good dynamic together. And again, her death is one of my favorite deaths in the show. It's just so sad. Man, Vicky and Tyler, this is just rough on so many levels, because similarly to like Jeremy and Vicky, they bring out the worst in each other. They're not great together. But also, like, Tyler does have the reaction of like standing up for her. And this is when he starts being like, I don't want to be like my parents. But he's never really faced that before, so he doesn't handle it well. And it ends up leaving Vicky in this like horrible situation where like his mom is super rude to her. He's like sneaking her into the back of the party because he wants her there, but he doesn't want her to like run into his parents. So it just like wrecks her self-esteem even more. Like, she's already a really delicate character, and I think Tyler is just like the worst of the worst to be put with her. Also, they have that weird moment at the party where like early season Tyler tries to force himself on her. We're supposed to just forget that that happened and move on. I remember, unfortunately, Silas and Amara, the original doppelgangers. Their relationship and love story is what ripple effects all the other doppelgangers out into the world. That's insane. Those moments in the woods where they finally reunite and they're like leaned up against that tree and they're crying and they're telling each other they love each other and they're talking about how they both want to die and they're like trying to decide who's gonna stab who, and it's the back and forth of that and the emotional roller coaster of that whole sequence of events. Insanity. That's some wild TV. Anna and Jeremy. Yeah, they make me sad because Anna is a tomb vampire. So she has never really had a chance to like be a regular girl, and definitely not like a regular girl in like the modern world, because the tomb vampires were like stuck for so long, right? So they're like adjusting and everything. She falls for Jeremy and it's supposed to be a trick. She's supposed to be using him, but she like face plants at his feet. And it's real sad because we have that like dynamic of like Pearl having fallen for one in the past and they turned on her and they're the reason why Pearl ended up in the tomb in the first place. It's very sad, okay, because it's like history's repeating itself. But they are cute together. That whole sequence of events where he like cuts his hand and he's like, what's wrong, Anna? Are you weird with blood? And like her eyes do the ripply thing and he's like, oh my god, I knew it! You're a freaking vampire, oh my god! That whole thing, that is great. As so good. 10 out of 10, Jeremy. You love to make a stupid decision, but I love to watch you do it because you never fail to not make me laugh. Rick and Jenna, y'all. Rick and Jenna. It's sad because it's like a loss of potential, because I really like Aunt Jenna and we don't have a lot of her, right? Like, she's gone pretty early on. Technically, they're like a rebound dynamic for each other, but in like a healthy way. In like a, we could learn to love again with each other kind of way. So it's nice. It doesn't feel like a traditional, like, I'm lonely and sad, so I'm just gonna hook up with the next person. It feels like they really had a connection and they were making it work, and then it gets ripped apart. I think people just need to stop dating Rick, honestly. I love early seasons Rick. I get it. I see what you see. We just need to let that man be alone. It's safer for all of us that way. Matt and Penny. Don't hate her. You can't hate her because it could be you, okay? So remember that it could always be worse. You could be in Penny's shoes, but instead Penny is in Penny's shoes. Somebody had to love Matt, and I'm glad it wasn't me. I just think it's crazy that they really like kept him around for as long as they did. And they were like, okay, Matt, we got you a happy ending. She even has brown hair, just like Elena, okay? She's a cop, just like you. Shoot her in the neck. Caroline and Jesse, man. I love bringing up this man. I truly do. He's a sweet boy. It could have just been really, really good for her. He's the guy who reminds her that it's okay to like want to flirt and to want to fall in love again. And he's so sweet, and she promises to help him, and then they kill him off anyway. And I'm just like, oh my god, why do we keep doing this? Freaking Bonnie and Luca. Why did we have to kill him? Why did he have to go away? Why couldn't we keep the witch boy. I wanted so much more for the two of them. I was so excited for Bonnie to be with a witch. As I've said many a time, that's what I wanted for her. It's not what I got. It's okay, but it does make me sad. These are my, there was something here, it was excellent, and they were too scared ships. If you have been listening and you're a Stefan girly and you're like, bestie, who did you want him with if you didn't want him with Elena or Caroline? My answer is Valerie. I know. If you watched my recap, you'll remember how I rip into her. And I talk about how dumb it is and how stupid it is and how I don't like it, because at that point we're supposed to be rooting for him and Caroline, and then it starts to get messy with Valerie. I forget every time that it's because Valerie does make more sense. I know, I'm sorry, but she does. She's his first love in a way that Catherine like pretends to be, but there is something about Stefan and Valerie that just like makes so much sense. And when you see them together when he was still a human and she was like a young siphon before she turned into a heretic, there's just something there. Like they're so good together. If I had it my way, he would end up with her. He would not go back to Caroline. He would just, that would be handled better, where he would say goodbye to Caroline, and that wouldn't be such a, you know, awful craziness, because what ends up happening in the show is like he is still very much wanting to be with Caroline, but he settles for being with Valerie and goes on the world tour with her and starts a relationship with her and everything. But like, he doesn't love her the way he loves Caroline, is how Valerie ends up feeling about it. And it is what happens, but I don't think it had to be that way. I don't think it had to be that way. I'm saying what I said. I think we could have had a Valerie in game and I would have accepted it. I feel so strongly about this one. Elena and Elijah. It was there. We all saw it. And yes, as I've said previously, it's connected back to the fact that he was in love with one of the doppelgangers, so he just can't help himself, but like it's there. There is such romantic tension between the two of them. Remember that letter that he wrote her? That was so freaking romantic. Are you joking me right now? The kiss that I keep talking about. I will never let it go. I know he thinks it's Catherine, but it's not, and it's a good kiss. She's so into it. I understand, bestie, I get it. The rest of this section of the list, just to prepare you, is me shipping Bonnie with literally every villain. So let's get into it. Starting off strong with Cole. Remember in season 4 when they walked past each other in a hallway and didn't recognize each other immediately? Like, he probably knew who she was. She did not know who he was on sight. She just thought, ooh, cute boy. Cute boy. Boy's so cute. Boy's smiling at me. And like, they just had a moment in this hallway. It was there. It was there. Remember when he showed up behind her in the crowd at graduation and he's like whispering in her ear? Oh, it was there. The vibes were vibing. Those moments on the other side, when he's crying, when he's talking to her because he's super upset. Cole's not a vulnerable kid in TVD. Okay, I don't know everything about him in the originals. I think he is definitely more emotional over there, but as far as TVD goes, he does not cry or show much weakness at all. Bonnie Bennett shows up on the other side and he's like, Bonnie, please, I need help, I'm so scared. Like, excuse me, it's almost like she makes villains feel safe. It's almost like she brings out their soft sides. It's crazy. How does she do that? Keeping it going. Bonnie and Nora. This isn't even a wild ship because it's there. It's there from the moment they're on screen together. There is something going on. I know from y'all commenting down below and like looking a little bit more into the discourse around them that Kat Graham was like down for it, and she was like, let Bonnie date a girl. We could have had canon Bonnie and Nora together. As far as I'm concerned, Kat Graham giving the okay means that Bonnie is bisexual. I said what I said. Bisexual witch. We did it. There's just so much chemistry. There's so much chemistry. They're so fun together. That scene where they're both in the little Christmas outfits and they have the little silly hats on. I'm here for it. Damon and Bonnie. This rewatch, I had so many of you down below that were like hitting me with all the points. I hear you, I see you, I understand it now in a way that I never did before. Reviewing the notes and everything, they have a lot of good banter from the jump, right? Because again, Bonnie has the personality of somebody that I would pitch with a villain simply because she's not usually scared. Like, typically, she's like standing in her power and she's like, I can beat you and you're not gonna intimidate me, and I'm gonna like rear back up at you and we're gonna match each other. And that makes it easier to ship her with these villains because she's not scared. With Damon, though, she kind of starts out, because obviously she's growing as a witch in the beginning. So there is this element of like him being very dangerous and her being very distrustful of him. We slowly break that down and they grow in their friendship, and we get to this thing in season 6 when they end up in the prison world where you're like, yes, whatever's happening here, never saw it coming, so excited about it, give me more. But like in the beginning, she was literally just like, I will kill you if you do one thing I don't like. Step out of line one more time and I will murder you. And then she almost does a couple times. I just love how complicated their friendship is, how charged it is. Like, there's so much tension between them. The flirting vibes and the banter and the sarcasm, like, they're just such a good personality match for each other. They're really entertaining to watch on screen. I feel like whether or not you ship them romantically or platonically, like, you're gonna enjoy them together. When late season Enzo is like, do y'all wanna team up with me or not? Like, I'm trying to help you. And Damon goes, hold on, I need to consult with my counsel. And then he just leans back into Bonnie's space and they have this moment of like, are we gonna work with him? I think we should. Okay, we'll do it. I can't with them. Like, I simply can't. The moment where he's prepared to let her kill him and he says that he admires her and he loves her, end me now. End me now. I can't. The fact that the letter he wrote her meant so much to him that he potentially rewrote it over and over again to the point where he learned it. Like, he memorized it like a little monologue and kept it in his head for years in order to read it out to her when the time was right. What are we supposed to do with that? There were just real feelings between the two of them, even if they're complicated. And it means that there was the potential for this like really special thing to happen, and it just doesn't. My big reason why it's hard for me to ship them romantically comes from the fact that after he's done all these things where he's like proved that he cares about her, and he does love her and he does value her, he's still awful. And that, again, that does have to do a lot with the writing, right? Because like in seasons Damon, he's annoying, he's backsliding, he's selfish again. Like, we're getting all of the character growth kind of revoked from him. Specifically, I always come back to the fact that what goes down with Kai in 1903 is in large part, like, you can make an argument for like the reason why it happens is because of Damon, because he comes in and he manipulates Bonnie to get what he wants, which is Kai being sent away, but at the expense of very nearly killing Joe and Liv early. Okay, because when Bonnie goes after Kai in 1903, she's so riled up from everything that she was already feeling, and then Damon has like amped her up even more, that she's prepared to kill him in 1903. Like, she holds that knife over his chest. She's gonna stab Kai in the heart, which if she does that in that moment, the Gemini Coven dies in the real world. And Damon's just sort of like, oh well, oh no, as if that's not gonna have huge ramifications for Bonnie, okay? Setting aside how I feel about Kai personally, I'm talking about just in general, killing him kills everyone. How is Bonnie gonna handle that well? Damon doesn't care because he wants Kai gone. So he's like, how can I get this to happen? The whole like Bonnie coming out of the prison world and everything, and the way Damon handles her, it's not good enough for me, okay? It's not good enough for me. Enzo dies, and Damon still is trying to use her, and he's not giving her the kind of like love and attention that she needs as somebody who's supposed to be his best friend. Like, that's how he describes her and he talks about her, and then in his actions he can't help himself. Like, he keeps screwing it up, and it's just hard for me to want her with him romantically when he can't even handle himself when they're just friends. I'm like, how am I supposed to trust you with her, dude? I simply can't. And now again, this is the writing. This is choices that they made that are just so painfully inconsistent, because we have that scene from the prison world where like Kai, you know, for one thing, Damon doesn't handle Kai flirting with her very well. So from the jump, he's like in the corner being like, stop looking at Bonnie like you want to kiss her. Don't do, that's my job. And then when Enzo gets involved, he's even more upset because he's like, when is it my turn? Why don't I get to be with her? But there's a scene where he like slams Kai up against the wall and he's like, we might be having a disagreement right now, but don't ever lay a hand on her. Like, he's so protective, okay? In the beginning half of season 6, when he gets back from the prison world and he's in the real world and she's still stuck in there with Kai and he's out of his mind with worry over her, he's calling her so he can hear her on the voicemail just like Jeremy did. Knock it off. Are you kidding? He goes and he sits in her room just to like be in her bedroom because he misses her. So I just think the second half of season 6, either they didn't know what they were doing the whole time, or they rewrote, because so much of the beginning of season 6, like, there's just huge discrepancies across the board between the beginning and the end. We have just like the early season goodness of like the end of 5 into season 6. It's looking like the show's gonna be back to like epic levels. We hit the merge and then it just, oh my God, dumpster fire. What happened over here? What is all of this in the second half? If there were things we could change, I think they make an excellent couple. It was there. It could have happened. I think Ian and Kat have both said that like they would have been down for that to happen, okay? I too would have, but we needed some changes because there's just, he uses her too much. He uses her too much in the second half of season 6, and I can't do that. No. Buckle up. You know what's coming. Prepare yourselves now. Stefan and Rebecca. Another option for him that I would have taken. I would have been like, sure, go for it. This one's a little complicated too, because on one hand, it's like, this is Ripper Stefan's taste in women, so that's not great. But then at the same time, Rebecca isn't evil, right? Like, Rebecca's not evil. So there is something about Stefan, Vampire Stefan, that is drawn to Rebecca in a good way. And they do have like a deep love for each other. But like, are Rebecca and Catherine similar? Yes. Yes. So Stefan clearly has a type. And I just wish he would live his truth, because I think we would all feel better about it. He would just be who he's supposed to be. Speaking of Miss Catherine, let's just go ahead and get them out of the way. Catherine and Stefan. We could have had it all. Really and truly, if they were in game, I would have accepted it. I would have accepted it. She would have had to prove some things to me and take care of him and not be perfect, because, you know, none of the villains are perfect, but I would have needed some changes, okay, in her behavior front as far as where he's concerned. But I would have accepted it because I do think that she adores him, like, truly and completely. I think she loves Stefan. And that's one of the only things that she doesn't lie about in the show. The problem is that she still manipulated him. So like, human Stefan was like, oh no, vampires are scary, I can't do this, ah. And I just feel like there was a better way for her to like tell him she was a vampire, you know, because Damon was like, I'm into this. This is hot. I've never been more turned on in my life. And Stefan was like, terrible danger, you're gonna kill me. She wasn't. She was never gonna hurt Stefan in that way. But she does like play with her food a little bit. And I think that freaks him out. And I'm just like, you could have right there started walking back your evil personality, okay? Because if the boy you love can't handle that, you're gonna have to ease him into it. And she just couldn't do that for him. I personally love the personality that Catherine brings out of Stefan. Like, y'all remember when they're standing, I think in Tyler's backyard, maybe Tyler's backyard, and she says like, you're different, you're stronger, meaner. It's kind of sexy. I'm like, girl, yes, it is. He's just sassier and more fun when she's around. Freaking Caroline and Enzo. Hello, gorgeous. Like, oh my God. It was such a good pairing, and the way that it just sort of tapers off into nothing, I will never be okay with that. The scene where they go after Stefan together, and then Stefan hurts her and she's crying in the car, and Enzo's like, hey, what's wrong? And he makes her look at him, and then he just goes, I'll be right back. And he goes inside, and like, he does snap Ivy's neck, okay? He shouldn't do that. We shouldn't be doing that. But I love a villain that will just burn the world for their partner. Like, I will always pick that trope. And that was what we had here. Oh my God, it was so good. I'm sad that when they scrapped the flirty vibes from the two of them, they just sort of scrapped the entire relationship. After they stopped talking, they just stopped talking. And then they're like never alone on screen together ever again. Matt and Rebecca give her the golden retriever human boy. He's perfect for her. The wild summer montage of them off in Europe with Nadia, that's crazy. Good for them. I'm glad they had fun. She just adds a spice to him that he simply does not have on his own, but then at the same time, he brings out all of the sweetness in her, and I think they balance each other really well, and it could have been really good. Like, it was fun. Remember when she's the one that saves him when he gets buried alive? The look on his little face, there's a reason why I always use that picture of him where he's got the little faint blood smear, because it's perfect. I love how happy he is to see her in that moment and how she's so pleased that she saved him. Like, they're cute. Oof, Bonnie and Jeremy. Now hear me out. Hear me out first, okay? Because obviously this relationship breaks down into something that I do not approve of, nor like in any way. The initial, like, oh my God, am I in love with my best friend's little brother? That's such a fun trope. Shut up, that's such a fun trope. It could have been so good, and it was for like a brief window of time. We had a lot going for us. He's so her type too, right? Like the messy dark hair, he's damaged, he's a killer, parental issues out the ass. Like, she's got a type, and I understand it. I do also enjoy that even though their relationship ends and they're not romantically together by the end of the show, they don't ever really have a great goodbye between them. It all kind of happens over the phone and like gets brushed under the rug and stuff, so we don't get like emotional closure really with the two of them in a way that's like substantial. But there is such a sense of like love between the two of them. Like, they care about each other in a way that, like, even if they're not going to be together romantically, like, that's not going to stop. Kind of similar to Matt and Elena. It will always be interesting to me that he is the one that's able to like physically hit the garage door while a certain someone is giving him the strength to do it. That will always intrigue me, that that's how that scene goes down. Oh my God, Caroline and Tyler. Loves of my freaking life. They were so good together, y'all. They were so good together, y'all. Coming out of her relationship with Matt into this relationship with Tyler, oh, it will never not just do everything for me. I love it. I love the dynamics of like how messy that gets, where the boys are kind of fighting over her, but Tyler's like, you don't even love her. Like, that whole situation, like, it's so good. The friendship to lovers vibes went so hard here. Harder than it ever needed to, but I appreciate every moment of it. I've really never recovered from the first night where he turns for the first time and she like tries to stay with him and he's like, get out, I'm gonna hurt you. But then he doesn't get out and he doesn't hurt anybody, and she puts the little blanket over him and like sits with him and cuddles him. Ugh, I can't. There's so many moments like that where they just take care of each other. Like, above any form of attraction and stuff, they are just there to like make sure the other one is safe and cared for. That will always do it for me. I think that Tyler sees her in a way that like only the bad guys can. There's something about the bad boys that end up falling for Caroline. They just get her. So he really does love her. And ultimately he loves her enough to leave, which is awful, okay? That whole thing is awful, terrible, but it makes sense to me that he's willing to do that for her, because I do think he genuinely cares about her. They're another one that like, had they been in game, I'd have been like, okay, I see it. Oh my God, Damon and Rose. Damon and freaking Rose. I don't know I don't know how we got so lucky with these two, but they're so incredible. They're so good together. This is the only person that I can 100% ship him with that's not Elena. Like 100%. If it had been Damon and Rose, you would not hear me complaining. There's such a level of care that they have for each other because right off the bat, basically, they have this sense of like deep understanding between them. They're both self-sacrificing. They're both super selfish, but also good and kind and like desperate to be loved in the way I love for my characters to be. And they find all of those things that they need in each other. And then they have this like mutual like, okay, so we're just gonna be special friends, but like it's coming from a place of we really do like and care about each other, right? And it's mutual and it's so healthy. It is somehow the healthiest freaking ship in this entire list, okay? And they're together for like a handful of episodes. The way he kills her and her death and that whole sequence of like illusion memory moments that he gives her, oh my God, when we come out of her mind and he's just holding her with the stake in her chest and he's crying, like, come on, are you serious? It was too good. It was too good. She had to go because she would have broken the show. There would have been no point to Elena after like a month or so with Rose. He'd have fallen so head over heels, he would have forgotten what Elena even looks like. Catherine who? He doesn't know her. Now, obviously, my top, we could have had it all ship, is Bonnie and Kai. Of course it is. First and foremost, we start off with immediate chemistry. Right off the freaking bat, fireworks going off between the two of them. It's insanity. Everything going on in the 1994 prison world in the early days, okay? The fact that they gang up on Damon together so instinctually, they're both just like, we're right, screw you, you're crazy, Damon. That will never not be funny to me. You killed a pregnant woman? Damon, what were you thinking? Iconic energy between the two of them. I love every moment of it. It's always like super heightened extremes. So either like she's flirting back with him and they're totally gonna make out in the Salvatore living room or in that cave or in the freaking kitchen in Portland, like something's gonna happen, or they're gonna kill each other. No in between. And then Damon is gone from the prison world, right? So he gets taken out of the equation. And this is when we truly enter like the enemies portion of the enemies to lovers vibes, because they're adversaries and they're fighting each other and we get a back and forth. And then Kai ultimately leaves her behind as like a payback for her trying to do that to him. Then obviously they get out and there's that adjustment period where post-merge Kai is like, I want to be better. I want to try to fix things. I'm dealing with all of these emotions. Not sure what to do with all of them, but I'd like to try. And his two main points of focus are Joe and Bonnie. They're the only people that seem to matter to him in like pre-merge world. So it makes sense that that's where his attention is focused in post-merge. And then everything just sort of unravels, and yet they never stop being tied to each other. There's such a level of like mutual obsession between the two of them. I will never not be able to ship them. He was put into the show for her. He was quite literally Bonnie's villain. You can't talk about him without talking about her. I don't understand how people don't ship them together. Like, I get it if you 100% take her breakdown at the end of season 6, like word for word, and you don't look into it at all. I get it. I understand that he hurt her. My take on it is that they hurt each other. It was mutual. They were fighting. Most important to me about the two of them is the ways that they make each other better, which I know some of you are gonna be like, they do what now? But they do. Like, there's something about Bonnie, similar to there being something about Joe, that just makes Kai want to be better. Not perfect, not like goody two-shoes, but just like better. Whether that's just to impress her or get what he wants from her, or if she simply like reminds him of how to be kinder, it doesn't really matter. It happens from the very beginning. And then Kai, similar to how I feel about like Catherine and Stefan, Kai brings out Bonnie's full personality in a way that not many people do. When I watched this show for the first time, I was 100% on board for Bonnie to get like a dark Bonnie era. And that's what I thought we were going into, because our girl is trampled and stepped on and sacrificed again and again and again and again. And I was like, finally, she's gonna be with somebody who's gonna help her stand up for herself. This is incredible. And we had this like mirror image personality swap of like Bonnie getting scary while Kai's trying to be good. And I was like, how fun will that be? This is the best. And then of course it disintegrates so quickly. But oh my God, the potential there. Also, just imagine the fun we could have had with Kai being such a powerful witch next to her, and the knowledge sharing that could have come from that. I'm just always going to be more interested in the witch lore and what's going on there. That could have just been unparalleled levels of power couple, all right? Bon Enzo is just rebranded and polished up Bon Kai. Listen, hold on, relax, and let me explain. So Enzo is a victim of severe trauma, right? But instead of being a literal child when that starts happening to him, he is a grown man. More than that, he's a grown vampire man. So he's somewhere, I think he's under a century old when that happens, but he's at least a few decades past when he was supposed to die, and he's locked in to like the mid-20s age range mentally. So his sociopathy kicks into place in that age instead of being like a teenager. I do tend to split the boys down the middle as far as like who falls in the psychopath camp, who falls in the sociopath camp. Enzo's over here with Kai, as far as I'm concerned. We regularly see him like turn off his emotions, not with the vampire switch, but just like his personality will just change. When things get a little too stressful, he'll be like, oops, I gotta cover with humor. Or he'll just deflect people like Damon or Bonnie and be like, don't poke me anymore or I'll turn violent. He also has the same mentality about being a vampire that Damon does, meaning that he thinks they should just kill people when they get hungry because they're predators. So why wouldn't they do that? That leads though to Enzo killing a lot of people. Even once he's like a good guy and hanging out with Caroline, he's still eating people left and right. He really only changes once he's with Bonnie. She brings out the best in him, and she gives him the space to be gentle and to be kind and to figure out how to love again.
Hey guys, it's editing Sarah. I'm currently working on stuff. I'm in the Bunkai section and I forgot something from my script. It's this tiny little footnote, but it is very important and we need to, it's gotta be said. Why is Bonnie in the prison world? That's right, Sheila Bennett, Grams herself, gave up her place on the other side because she was sure that that's how Bonnie was gonna find her peace. What do you mean? Damon wasn't supposed to go. It was just supposed to be Bonnie getting sent over to the 1994 prison world where Sheila knew damn well Kai was waiting. Sheila's the one who put him in there. By the way, in case that's lore that you didn't know, Sheila is the reason why Kai's in the prison world to begin with, okay? She sends Bonnie over there knowing that he can't die, so it's not like Bonnie can kill him and then get away from him. More than that, they need him being a Gemini with the knowledge about the Ascendant and how the spell works, and her being a Bennett with the spell itself and like the ability to do the magic with her Bennett blood. They both are gonna have to work together in order to get out. So what was the point, Grams, if they weren't supposed to fall in love? What was the point? And also, maybe the most annoying thing about the two of them is that their names are Bonnie and Kai. And it's really, we did that to ourselves and they don't end up together and or die tragically together. Like real life Bonnie, her last name was Parker. I can't do this anymore. We're done.
So let's just move on to my like top tier in-game ships. Our girls, Mary Lou and Nora. They're at once so good and so bad, like, but at the end of the day, they need to be together. They go together, they're a set. I don't know where to put them otherwise. I love the fact that other people in their lives, Bonnie, will call out like the red flags that they have between the two of them, and then whichever one is being talked to will just be like, yeah, but she's so pretty and I do love her and she reads me poetry and we're gonna get married. as they should. What ends up happening to them and like the heartbreak of them being separated for so long after finally being put back into the world together and undesiccating and like getting a chance, and then all of that goes out the window and they just blow up in a car together. Crimes against lesbians. Crimes against lesbians. But it is such a good ship. They're so good together. Joe and Rick. I joke that they're both like functioning alcoholics, and that's like half of what I love about their relationship, but like they are, it is, and we should say it louder for the people in the back. The mutual trauma sharing and the way that they just find like an easy comfort in each other is so nice. Because as far as Joe goes, obviously she's not had very many people in her life that she can trust and rely on. And Rick somehow just molds himself into like, I will be that man for you. I've never been very good at it, but Joe, I'll do my damnedest, and he does. Like, we'll get into these moments of them together in my season breakdown and everything, but like the scene where he tries to compel her and she calls him out on it because she's secretly a witch. The entire corn maze episode, the scene where she freaking proves that she's a Parker and just stalks his ass over the line into Mystic Falls and saves him, and he's not a vampire anymore, he gets to be a human. That is wild. That is, it's so good. Another Parker ship, Tyler and Liv, the best of the best. I simply adore them. I wish more than anything that they could have stayed together and been in game, because like in my head, they just run off to the mountains together, all right? He's got a little wolf pack. She's doing her magic in peace. They're recovering together. We don't need to talk about what happened at the Red Wedding. We can pretend it's not real. They're out in the mountains. They're safe and sound together somewhere. That scene where he tells her like, what do you want me to do, Liv? Do you want me to break? And she tells him that like she has to push him away because otherwise she'll fall for him. And like they're both so intense about it and they're almost crying, and woo, there's so much chemistry between the two of them. Like it's so good. Every time they're on screen together, I'm like, yes, yes. Damon and Elena. If I could change one thing about them, it would be the wishy-washiness of the end of the show. But like, I feel that way, as you've learned from this video alone, about many a thing. I just really wish they didn't like lock down on the idea that Damon is only good because of Elena. Because it just isn't true. And he proves to us that it isn't true, but then the second she goes away, he's like, oops, I'm crazy again. And he just kind of immediately starts backsliding and regressing into like early seasons Damon. Personally, I would have been much more invested and interested in watching him navigate being without her in a healthy way. Whatever healthy way is for him, you know, like when we see him in Europe with Rick and Bonnie is kind of babysitting them and stuff, that all feels good to me. I don't hate that. It's more so like, as it progresses, he just goes away and goes back into himself. And then by the end of the show, we're supposed to be like, oh, he's back to normal, I guess, but we didn't see it unfold. Being with her did change him. And like Red Wedding Damon, like at the end of season 6, where he's like, I want to take the cure with you, I want to be with you, all of that, that was new Damon. And so it's like, he should be able to wait 60 years. And then he probably would have had a fling with Bonnie had he just moved into season 7, still in that healed era, or like as close to that healed era as he could get. We probably would have ended up with like some Damon scenes, because that would have happened at that point had he just been normal. But let me hit you with my highlight reel, okay? I'm just gonna read it off my screen because there's many a thing. We're just gonna go through it. The moment where he's kidnapped by Rebecca and he like imagines Elena coming in and giving him her blood. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That look in his eyes when he bites her wrist. He's so gentle. What was that moment? It's crazy. The necklace reveal on her birthday. The Halloween that they dress up as vampires and just go on a little feeding frenzy together and they're dancing at that house party. 10 out of 10. The rain kiss. I said what I said. The first dance in the blue dress, and then also the dress at the Red Wedding when it's like their goodbye in her head. Please. You know what though? Every time they dance, okay? Because that is such a thing for the two of them. Elena loves to dance. She loves a party. She loves a dress up moment. You know who doesn't? Stefan. Because Stefan doesn't like to look silly. But Damon dances with her every chance he gets. That becomes a huge thing for the two of them. And it's everything to me. Maybe my favorite scene between the two of them, okay? When he comes into the gym and she is like working out and he holds the bar down and he's like, come on, Buffy, that scene. What ends up happening is like he teaches her how to kill a vampire and he puts her hand on his chest. Good Lord, that scene is what does it for me. It's so good. The hallway makeout at the motel. That episode where they just goof off together and go on a road trip so that she can run away from Stefan after he saves her from the car crash and she passes out into his arms after going, I look like her. Yeah. That whole season 1 moment in the Gilbert kitchen where they're like making dinner together and he has that stupid rag thrown over his shoulder and they keep like bumping into each other because the kitchen's so small. The iconic fight in the Salvatore living room. Don't even get me started. Oh man, Bonnie and Enzo. First off, the care and the time that went into all the scenes of their relationship unfolding, like when we see them in the cabin and all the little moments of like dealing with the Huntress and all of that, like you can just see how much the actors cared about the characters and wanted them to be happy together and like took the time to be like, how do we like cultivate this and make it feel real? And it does. It's so cute. It basically, like in the fandom, I know it's a joke where it's like, oh, you mean the Bonenzo movie? Because that's what the cabin scenes feel like. Like it's a little rom-com playing in the background of the season. But then we get to that point where he's gone and he's a ghost and he's encouraging her to forgive Stefan. And I don't... It's not even so much that it feels totally out of character for Enzo to do that. Just personally, I wish it was just not a thing that they do because Bonnie has been through so much. And that moment of losing Enzo is the tipping point. Like that's the last straw. She can take no more. And then she's confronted with his ghost being like, you're being a little harsh on Stefan. You should maybe try to forgive him. He didn't mean it. And it's just like, I reach a point where I would much prefer her to be with a certain somebody who would probably, if presented with the exact same situation of like being with her, and then he dies, and he's a ghost, his reaction would be like, you know what, baby, you're right. You should burn them all. I'm gonna sit here with some popcorn, I'm gonna eat it while you do it. Go ahead. But that's just not what we get from Enzo. Enzo doesn't give us that energy. You know what? I guess it's really not out of character for Enzo to encourage her to forgive Stefan because he does the same thing with Damon, where she's mad at Damon, you know, like after he desiccates himself and everything and he comes back into their lives, and Enzo and Bonnie are obviously a couple now, and Damon's shocked by that. Enzo is like, you could forgive him. Like, you don't have to be that harsh. He does do that. I forgot until right now. So yeah, maybe that's just not something I like about Enzo. Maybe I just think Bonnie deserved to be with somebody who was gonna let her burn the world. It's fine, he does love her, and he brings out the best in her personality, and they're so loving and sweet and kind with each other, and I will never not want them to be together, all right? So don't get it twisted. Just because I prefer her with Kai does not mean I don't love Enzo. I love him. Now, my favorite ship really surprised me this time around in this rewatch because I was like, y'all, I feel like my top 3 has just shuffled around, right? Klaus and Caroline. Yes. The way that Klaus turns into a puddle of goo the second Caroline is anywhere in his line of sight just like melts me into a puddle of goo too. Like I don't know how I'm supposed to handle how weak he is over her. I love enemies to lovers. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite tropes. Let's just highlight reel as we did with Damon and Elena, okay? Because there's just too many moments. We're just gonna go through them. Obviously, he's your first love. I intend to be your last. Oh my God, that is just so good. Okay, that's so iconic. It's everything. Nothing really comes of it in the way that we wanted it to. But I don't think it's not true. The way he looks at her when he's out at the grill drinking with Cole and she comes in and he's like, join us for a drink? And she's like, thanks, but I'd rather choke. I can't. They're so funny together. When he rocks up at graduation and just like cuts that traveler's head off with the graduation cap, are you serious right now? The scene where he saves her in the high school when Rick is on evil X Games mode and he's got Elena and Caroline tied up in that classroom and Caroline gets away and she runs out into the hallway and then Klaus grabs her and she panics and he goes, shh, it's okay, it's me. She immediately stops panicking and he goes, it's okay, you're safe. No, I simply cannot. Her little quiet thank you in that moment, don't play with me right now. Her getting him so riled up that she breaks the illusion that there was like wood in his back in that one scene and he's like yelling at her and going crazy because he's like losing it a little bit and she's just like, you need to relax. The blue dress scenes where they're dancing at the party and he's like, you're really good at this, and she's like, well, thank you, I've had training, I was Miss Mystic Falls, and he goes, I know. Good Lord. Oh my God, speaking of Miss Mystic Falls, that scene at the party where he freaking reads her application letter to her and he's like giggling and they're both just like teasing each other and laughing and having the best time sharing a little bottle of champagne, and Tyler sees them and he's like, oh, I hate that. I'm so threatened. You should be. You should be threatened because look at how happy they are together. What are we supposed to do with that? Like, even in the moments where Klaus is being the villain, as he is wont to do, and he's the one hurting Caroline, he's so apologetic. And it's wild because you know that he means it in a way that the other men simply do not. Like, Klaus is sorry when he apologizes to Caroline. He just simply can't help himself. He's a freaking menace. That scene where he comes into her room and she goes, are you gonna kill me? And he says, on your birthday? Do you really think so low of me? And then it devolves into that soft monologue about how he loves birthdays and he could save her if she wants, or he could let her die. And she's like, well, that's good because I am dying and it's your fault. And then she says she wants to live and he gives her blood. Please, oh my God. That is a wild scene. They are just like, above all else in this show to me, like the epitome of enemies to lovers. Because the thing is, and we're not all ready to talk about it, Damon and Elena are not enemies to lovers. They're not. Damon is a fake enemy. Damon is not that scary. Klaus is scary. Klaus is evil. There's a lot going on with him when he shows up. He's not a good guy. Caroline still falls for him. Caroline still falls for him. Caroline still hooks up with him in the woods. And that's why everybody gets so mad about it, because it is a little crazy of her to do that. But like, I don't blame her. I don't blame her at all. He's so good with her. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If I still forgot any of your favorite ships, don't forget to drop them down below. Off the top of my head right now, I know I forgot Damon and Lexi. I would probably put them in, like, we could have, there was something here, but they were too scared. There was something here, but they were too scared. Yes, I'm going with that. If you did enjoy, don't forget to like and comment down below. I love talking to you guys, and I feel like we are gonna have a lot to discuss after videos like this, so just let me know down below how you feel. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you so soon. Have a good one. Bye!